Imagine receiving God's promise, but using deception to get it first. That is exactly what makes Jacob's story deeply troubling and fascinating. Jacob disguised himself as Esau and deceived his blind father Isaac. He received the blessing that belonged to Esau, apparently unfairly. But here comes the difficult question that many believers struggle to believe. Why did God honor the blessing Jacob stole from Esau? Wait, before we answer, we must notice something many readers overlook. God had already spoken about Jacob before his birth and struggle. Before Jacob and Esau were born, God revealed his purpose clearly. The older son would serve the younger son, according to Scripture. So Jacob did not invent God's plan through his deception that day. Yet Jacob foolishly tried helping God's promise through his own methods. That difference changes everything when we understand the entire story. God's purpose was right, but Jacob's method was clearly wrong. Isaac was deceived and pronounced the blessing over Jacob instead. When Esau returned, Isaac discovered the truth and trembled. Yet Isaac refused to simply cancel the blessing he had spoken. He declared, "Indeed, he shall be blessed." As Genesis records it, why would Isaac say this after discovering such a deception? Because the spoken blessing had become significant within God's unfolding purpose. Still, Scripture never presents Jacob's deception as something God approved. God did not need Jacob's lies to accomplish his promised purpose. And this is where many people misunderstand God's dealings with Jacob. God honored his covenant promise, not Jacob's dishonest actions instead. There is another important truth we must not miss here. Jacob received the blessing, but his deception brought him years of suffering. He soon had to leave home because Esau wanted him dead. Jacob spent years away, facing deception from Laban himself. The deceiver eventually experienced painful consequences from being deceived himself. What Jacob planted through dishonesty came back to haunt him. Yet God did not abandon Jacob during those difficult years. Instead, God met Jacob, protected him, corrected him, and transformed him. At Bethel, God confirmed promises that reached back before Jacob's deception. God promised Jacob descendants, land, presence, protection, and future blessing. Notice something powerful. God corrected Jacob without canceling his covenant. This shows us that God's faithfulness is greater than human failure. But Jacob's story becomes even more powerful at Peniel that night. There, Jacob wrestled through the night and faced his deepest weakness. He stopped, depending only upon clever plans and human manipulation. He clung to God and asked for blessing instead of control. God changed Jacob's name from Jacob to Israel during that encounter. His life began showing that God's blessing requires surrender, not scheming. So did God honor Jacob's stolen blessing because deception pleased him? No. God honored his covenant purpose while dealing with Jacob's sin. This distinction matters because grace never means God approves our wrongdoing. God can fulfill his purpose even through our terrible human choices. Maybe you are trying to force something God already promised you. Jacob's story warns us not to help God through sinful shortcuts. If God promised it, you do not need manipulation to obtain it. You need faith, patience, obedience, and trust in his perfect timing. Jacob eventually learned that God's blessing was deeper than material success. It was God's presence, covenant, transformation, and purpose over his life. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson hidden inside Jacob's story. God can redeem our mistakes without calling those mistakes righteous. So, what do you think? Did Jacob receive grace or consequences? Share your answer below and tell us what Jacob should have done.